I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. Since the 90s, I've been using battery-operated tools. This was the first one. It's a Black & Decker power screwdriver. And I use this to set a whole lot of screws. We were building a bathroom in the upstairs of our house. Yeah, converting a bedroom into a bathroom in a 2-story, 100-year-old farmhouse. Real exciting work. But this driver made it so that my hand, which has carpal tunnel, really bad in my right hand from building a deck, long story. That made it so that my hand didn't hurt. So I got involved in battery operated tools then, and I've kept going. I've had Milwaukee's, both at work and at home. I've had lots of Black & Decker. I've had some Craftsman, had some Ni-cads, still got the Ni-cads. They're good tools. Batteries are getting a bit expensive and hard to find, but they're very good tools. And now I have Dewalt's, my new favorite. This one's nearly 10 years old, and the battery that came with it is nearly 10 years old too. Battery goes in and releases just by pushing these two little buttons, one on either side. 18 volt, lots of power. Batteries hold up about 30 screws worth, or 30 holes, if you're not drilling anything really hard. They're getting a little older. Press those two buttons in, comes right out. This one, nope. This latch on this side doesn't want to come loose. Now I bought 2 new batteries to replace these with. But I need to take this one apart. And I should warn you, what I'm doing here, what I've done just this moment, has voided the warranty on this battery. Of course, since how it's 10 years old or nearly so, there isn't any warranty on it anyways. And I have to be careful because it is a fully charged battery. I always try and keep them fully charged because leaving them sit around dead is a sure way to make them die sooner. Now I'm using this Milwaukee screwdriver because I picked it up at the local hardware store. The local True Value hardware store here in Richland. Great place. They really know how to market things. This was sitting right by the counter as I walked up to buy the screws that I was actually going for. And it's a Torx screwdriver. And I noticed it went down to 10. That's the size I needed to take this battery apart. The size I didn't have. So I spent the $16 and bought the screwdriver. Okay, I probably could have just bought a tip for a screwdriver that I have for $1 or $2, but I didn't see those laying around and I saw this close to hand, so I picked it up. Great marketing job. And it's a Milwaukee screwdriver. It's actually a pretty good one. Comes with 6 bits. You can replace the bit that's in the screwdriver just simply by pushing the one that you want to change into the slot, and the other one comes out the back, and there you go, you're all set, ready to run. So, back to my job. Take the screws out. And very carefully separate the top from the bottom. And this latch has gotten broken. This button, which is in 2 pieces, is supposed to look like this button, which is in 1 piece. This one, 2 pieces. Therefore, I need to make this one into 1 piece again, because that is the hinge that this little latch works against to bring that clip This clip has to be brought in past the side of the thing so that it releases. Need to put this back together again. I need to use super glue. Super glue, in this case Loctite super glue, the original brand that I first used, and Loctite has been a really good super glue source for me for a long time. The only problem that every super glue has is it's got a shelf life. Now, I keep this in the refrigerator so it's cold and it doesn't set up as quick. But anytime you expose it to a vacuum, someplace where there isn't oxygen, it starts setting up. And the problem I have is, if I put the cap on and I have any super glue anywhere near that cap, I end up with partially set up super glue just gumming the works up. You can see it just gobbed up all over the place here. Now, once it gets down here and really sets up tight, not much you can do with it. But to get the cap open, I ended up cutting the top off. Normally it comes out in a drop or two. Now it comes out pour. So I usually spread it around with some small disposable utensil. This is a matchstick. It's a little big for this job. I prefer toothpicks. Toothpicks have a couple of advantages. One, they're disposable, because once you get super glue on something, unless you're intending to repair it, it's really not a thing that you want to keep around. The other thing it's got is it's got a wide end and a narrow end, so I can use a little bit or a bit more. In this case, I think I'm going to use the narrow end to put it on there. Now, because I have to put it on using a toothpick, getting super glue out of the bottle when you've cut the top off means it's going to come out in a droplet like that. So I take the small end and I run it into the puddle of super glue and I put it over here on this part, and I make sure and get the whole thing coated with super glue, which is really not that hard to do. So I want to have 100% contact. Then I just take the little pieces broken off and manually put them together if I can, because the little buggers tend to come all over the place. And in this kind of a situation, having the proper tool, in this case a pair of forceps, I think it's called a hemostat. Don't know for sure, I'm not a doctor. Allows you to grab a hold of it and hold it. Because I got big fat fingers and they get in the way. And I just have to hold it in position long enough for it to set up. And once it's set up, I can release it from the hemostat, make sure it's lined up correctly, and then stop touching it. Biggest problem I have is I want to keep fiddling with things. You got to walk away. You got to give it time to cure. So that's what I'm going to do. We'll come back in about 15 minutes and see how it's doing. Spiders. They're everywhere. I read someplace that you're never more than 3 feet from a spider anywhere on Earth. I thought, Antarctic? But I guess there's spiders that live where it's really cold too. So this spring goes down into this pocket and sits down in there and pushes against that little latch. The latch goes down into the notch there so that the spring pushes it out. Actually goes together pretty easily. Kind of surprised that I don't have to lock the spring in somehow. It just drops down in there. Then when you put the cover back on, the cover has got the latch on it. That's what goes down into the slot on the spring and holds the spring in place. Kind of a neat thing. And I like how the batteries on this unit are covered up. There's no connections open except that one little bar right there that I can get my meaty little fingers into and cause trouble. Surprisingly heavy. And I bet I could take some batteries out of this and fix this thing, but it'd be kind of silly. Because a whole nother unit like this probably cost me 15 bucks on eBay. Of course, the battery will be shot in that one too. And this is about an $80 battery, so. So I dropped the 2 latches in there now, because this one's had time to set up, I believe. Yeah, looks like it's going to be in the right spot. And I dropped the spring in place. Now on this wall right here, there's a slot for that spring to go into that keeps it from sliding sideways. Okay, we'll put the top back on. There, we've got things fitting together. Now, as to why this thing broke, these Dewalt tools are extremely rugged. The reason I asked for this drill motor at Christmas is when I worked at Douglas Auto Tech, and I left there in 1990. We used them to do all kinds of things in the maintenance department. I was in charge of the maintenance department, so I bought the guys what they wanted, and they all wanted Dewalts. We had Makitas in the rest of the plant, and the Makitas were nice. I mean, they were solid little units and worked well. They had a 9-volt battery. This one's got an 18. Gives a little more oomph. Does make it heavier, but it really did a good job when they built it. So anyways, this design is a good 20 years old and solid as the day is long. Let's see if I got this thing fixed. Yep, latches up, comes back out. looks like I got a winner. With the experience I gained from buying these drill motors for the guys that worked for me, and how much abuse they put them through. I mean, they really ran the hell out of them. They used them for everything. Didn't have to carry an extension cord. You go up to the top of the ladder, battery pulled you through the job. Well, based on that experience, I said, when my son asked me what I wanted for Christmas, I told him I wanted a Dewalt drill motor. Ryan got me a set of 3. He got me a Dewalt drill motor, he got me a Dewalt reciprocating saw, and he got me a Dewalt light. All of which are one's just as rugged as the other. Works. Works great. But this guy here, I love this tool. For demolition, it's not really a finesse tool, but for demolition, you can tear things apart in a hell of a hurry. It also cuts tree branches. You can buy an 18-inch long blade for this thing. It'll act like a big old reciprocating chainsaw and go through all kinds of stuff. That's how I got into trouble with the battery pack. I rented a bucket truck because I had some work to do on the top of the barn, and the top of the barn was a bit high to reach with the ladders that I had. We used a bucket truck quite a bit. We painted the house with a bucket truck because we couldn't get up into the eaves. So anyways, while I had the bucket truck, I wanted to trim some branches out of a tree. Well, bucket trucks have one problem. If you drop a tree on them, they really don't like it. So I extended the bucket arm out quite a ways, and I was very carefully chipping away, taking this branch which had gotten nested in a bunch of other branches, and I was cutting away stuff. Well, it popped loose. I had this into the branch itself when it fell apart, yanked it out of my hands, and it went 30 feet to the ground. Obviously, didn't damage the saw. But I think that's the day that the battery pack got whacked. It was a long time ago that I dropped it. I was still living in Union City. That would be a good 7 or 8 years ago that I dropped it. Things get fixed, but on my schedule, not theirs. Working like it's supposed to now. So if you drop your Dewalt out of a tree and break the little thumb button on the battery pack, you now know how to fix it. You disassemble the battery pack very carefully with a number 10 Torx screwdriver. Removing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. Carefully lift the top off, pull the latch out, pull the spring out, take the little pieces broken off. Fortunately, I was able to find mine. It broke off and stayed inside. If yours doesn't do that, I'm sorry, you're out of luck. If it breaks it the same way mine did, you'll be able to glue that back on and have your battery pack back up and working again. If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments below. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching.